I didn't know my best friend watched me sleep until I caught him doing it. It sounds creepy, I know, like the start of one of those horror stories. But this isn't some ghost story. This actually happened, and it changed everything between us. Josh and I had been best friends since freshman year of college. He was the funny one, always cracking jokes, always surrounded by people. I was the quieter half of the duo, more into gaming, coffee shops, and late-night YouTube spirals than house parties. But we clicked right away. Roommates turned friends. Friends turned, well, that's the part one didn't see coming. By junior year, we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment off campus. Rent was cheap, the place was a little drafty, but it was ours. Josh had a rotating door of girls he flirted with or dated, depending on the week. And me? I kept my private life private. I was out to a few close friends, but I'd never brought anyone home. Especially not with Josh around. He never said anything about it, never asked. Maybe he didn't care. Or maybe he knew and just decided to pretend he didn't. That's kind of how Josh was. Easygoing, chill, emotionally allergic. Or so I thought. It happened on a Thursday night. I was exhausted from back-to-back shifts at my job and a group project that had turned into me doing 90% of the work. I barely remember collapsing into bed. My bedroom was dark, the kind of dark where the only light came from the street lamp filtering through the blinds. I was dead asleep. Then I felt it, the smallest sound, a soft creak, like someone had nudged the door open. I didn't move. You know that weird half-sleep state where your body's frozen but your mind starts to wake up? That's where I was. I cracked my eyes open just a sliver. Josh was standing in my doorway. I didn't say anything. I wasn't even sure I was awake for real. He didn't move for a while. Just stood there in the hallway, light, shirtless, hair messy like he'd just gotten up. His eyes were locked on me. Then he stepped inside. Quiet, careful, like he didn't want to wake me, but also like he needed to be closer. He sat on the edge of my bed. I felt the mattress dip under his weight. Still, I didn't move. My heart was hammering. I didn't know what the hell was happening. He just sat there. I could hear him breathing. Slow, steady, like he was thinking about something heavy. Then, his hand reached out, not forcefully, just a light touch against the blanket near my shoulder, like he was checking to see if I was real. I held my breath, completely still. Then, after a long pause, he got up, walked out, closed the door quietly behind him, and that was it. I stayed frozen for a good 5 minutes. Then I sat up, still trying to figure out if I'd dreamed the whole thing. But the shape of the blanket where he'd sat was still there. Real. Josh never mentioned it the next day. He acted totally normal, asked if I wanted to grab breakfast, made dumb jokes like always. But every time I looked at him, all I could think about was the way he'd stood there, just watching me. And the worst part? I didn't hate it. I tried to forget it. That night, the way Josh stood in my doorway, like he didn't know whether to come in or walk away. The way he sat down in my bed, like it was something he'd done 100 times, like it wasn't totally weird. The way his hand hovered, gentle, unsure, like he wanted to touch me, but didn't know if he should. But you don't just forget something like that, not when it's your best friend. Not when you've secretly been half in love with him for way too long. And definitely not when the next morning he's standing in the kitchen, pouring cereal like nothing happened. "Dude, you looked dead asleep last night," he said casually, like we were talking about a normal night and not the one where he may or may not have tried to climb into bed with me. I stared at him. "Yeah, slept hard." That was all I said. I didn't bring it up. I couldn't. Because if I was wrong, if it was some weird sleepwalking thing or just me dreaming, it would ruin everything. But I started watching him more closely. The way he acted around me. The way his eyes lingered a little too long sometimes when I came out of the shower with my hair still wet or when I stretched without thinking. The way he'd sit closer on the couch than he needed to, legs pressed against mine like it was no big deal. I told myself it was just Josh being Josh. He was always touchy. That was just who he was. Right? But then came Friday night. We were supposed to go out with some friends, but everyone bailed last minute. Rain was coming down in sheets, and neither of us felt like dealing with parking or umbrellas. So we stayed in. We ended up doing what we always did, grabbing beers from the fridge and watching some old sci-fi movie that we'd seen at least 5 times. At some point, he stretched out across the couch and kicked his legs onto my lap. "Hope you don't mind," he said, grinning like he always did. I shook my head, trying to look unbothered. "Nah, go ahead. My thighs are honored." He laughed, that deep, easy kind of laugh that always got to me. We kept watching the movie, his legs resting there like it was the most casual thing in the world. But I could feel the warmth of his skin through the worn fabric of his sweatpants, the slow, almost lazy way he shifted now and then. And I couldn't help but notice that he wasn't really watching the movie. He was watching me. I didn't say anything until the credits rolled. "Okay, that was terrible," I said, shaking my head. "Why do we keep watching this one?" Josh stretched again, yawning dramatically. "Because it's tradition. And because you always get weirdly emotional at the end." "I do not," he smirked, then sat up. "You do. Your little, 'they just wanted to go home' speech?" I tossed a pillow at him. "Shut up." He caught it easily, held it in his lap. His smile faded a little, and he looked at me more seriously than usual. "Hey, can I ask you something?" My stomach flipped. "Sure." He hesitated. "Have you ever, wanted to kiss someone but didn't know if it'd mess everything up?" My throat dried up instantly. I blinked. Yeah, I guess." Josh looked down at the pillow, fidgeted with the corner of it. "What'd you do?" I stared at him, heart thudding in my chest. "I didn't," I said quietly. "I just didn't do anything." He nodded like he already knew that would be my answer. Then he looked up at me, eyes a little glassy from the beer, or maybe from something else entirely. "What if they wanted you to?" I didn't know what to say. My hands were suddenly clammy, and I was pretty sure he could hear how fast I was breathing. "Do they?" I asked. Josh didn't answer right away. He just leaned in, slow, cautious, and paused inches from my face. "I don't know," he whispered. "You tell me." I should have said something. Anything. But all I could do was stare at him. My best friend, the guy I'd lived with for almost 3 years. The guy who I had convinced myself would never look at me the way I looked at him. And now he was right there, inches away, waiting. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Josh didn't rush it. He didn't push. He just watched me, his face serious for once. No smirk, no jokes. Just that same intensity I'd seen in his eyes the night I caught him in my room. And then, without a word, he leaned in the rest of the way. The kiss was soft, tentative, like he was afraid I'd pull away. I didn't. I couldn't. Because the second his lips touched mine, something inside me snapped loose. All the nights I'd wondered what it would feel like. All the tension that had quietly built up over years of living side by side. It all flooded out at once. I kissed him back. God, I kissed him back like I was drowning, and he was the only thing keeping me afloat. Josh made this quiet sound, like a sigh mixed with relief, and I felt his fingers slide up, cupping the side of my neck. His touch was warm, grounding. Familiar and completely new at the same time. We broke apart slowly, our foreheads resting against each other. He was breathing hard. So was I. Neither of us said anything at first. Then Josh let out a quiet laugh. One of those shaky, half-nervous ones. "So, that happened." I nodded, heart still hammering. "Yeah." "Was that okay?" he asked. "Because if it wasn't—" "It was," I said quickly. "It was." He looked relieved, then a bit overwhelmed. He ran a hand through his hair, then looked down like he didn't quite know what to do with himself. "I didn't plan that," he said. I didn't come into tonight thinking I'd kiss you." I gave him a small smile. "Kinda felt like you did." He laughed again, eyes crinkling at the corners. Okay, maybe I thought about it. My smile faded slightly. How long? He glanced at me, then back at the pillow in his lap. I don't know. A while. It's not like I just realized one day that you were always there. And I started thinking about it. About you. Differently. I swallowed hard. So, what is this then? Josh paused, then looked up at me. That depends on you. I didn't know how to answer that right away. My thoughts were spinning, my body still buzzing from the kiss. Everything about this moment felt surreal. Like we'd stepped into some alternate version of our lives where things like this could actually happen. He saw the hesitation in my face and added, I'm not messing with you. I wouldn't do that. I know, I said. And I did. That was the strangest part. I knew he meant it. I could see it in his face. I just don't want to screw up what we have, I admitted. You're my best friend. Josh nodded. I don't want to screw it up either. But I don't want to keep pretending like I don't think about you when I shouldn't. Or like I didn't come into your room that night. So he remembered. He watched me carefully. I didn't mean to be weird. I just couldn't sleep. I walked past your door, and it was cracked open a little, and I saw you. And I don't know, I wanted to be close to you. I looked away, feeling suddenly exposed. It wasn't a dream then, I muttered. He shook his head. No. There was a silence. Then he said, quieter now. Did you want it to be? I looked back at him and said the only honest thing I could. No. Josh reached for my hand. His grip was steady, reassuring. We don't have to figure it all out tonight, he said. But I want to, if you do. I stared at our hands, at the way his thumb moved slowly over mine, like he was still trying to calm himself down. I do, I said. I want to. After that night, everything between us shifted, but not in the way I expected. There was no big confession the next morning. No sudden whirlwind romance. We didn't wake up curled together on the couch, whispering sweet nothings. Instead, I woke up alone in my room, and Josh was already in the kitchen making eggs like usual. But when he handed me a plate, our fingers touched just a little too long, and when he sat across from me, he kept glancing up, like he was checking to make sure I was still there, still okay. Sleep all right? He asked casually. I nodded. Yeah. You? He nodded too. Yeah. That was it. No mention of the kiss, no awkwardness. But the air between us, it was loaded. That a whole weekend felt like tiptoeing around a landmine, except neither of us wanted to avoid it. We were circling it, watching it, waiting for it to go off. It wasn't until Saturday night that anything happened again. We were up late playing video games, something mindless and competitive. Josh was talking trash like he always did, leaning forward on the edge of the couch, eyes locked on the screen. And I was pretending to focus, but really, I was watching the way his mouth moved, the way his laugh lit up his whole face. He caught me staring. You good? He asked, smirking. I shrugged. Just thinking. About? I hesitated. Us. He paused the game. That got his attention. Yeah? He said. I nodded, suddenly nervous. That night, it wasn't just a one-time thing for you, was it? He leaned back slowly, controller forgotten in his lap. No, it wasn't. I swallowed. So, what do we do now? Josh let out a breath like he'd been holding it in for days. I don't know. I didn't think this would ever happen. I thought maybe I was just confused. Or lonely. Or something. But now? I asked. He looked at me. Really looked at me. Now I'm just scared I'll mess it up. I didn't know what to say to that. Because, honestly, same. We're already messing with something good, I said. We've had this thing for years. Being roommates, being friends. If this goes bad, I don't know if we can come back from it. Josh nodded, his jaw tight. But if it goes good, yeah, I said quietly. If it goes good. There was a long pause. Then he got up, crossed the room, and sat down next to me, closer than he needed to. "Can I kiss you again?" he asked. That time, I didn't hesitate. It was different from the first kiss. Not cautious, not testing the waters. This one was deeper, slower, like we both knew what we wanted and weren't afraid to ask for it. His hand found my waist, pulling me closer, and I felt my fingers bunch in the fabric of his hoodie, anchoring myself there. It wasn't perfect. Our teeth bumped, our rhythm faltered, but none of that mattered. Because it was real. It was happening. Afterward, we just sat there. His arm slung lazily over my shoulder, his cheek resting against the side of my head. "Okay," he said softly. "Now I'm officially more into you than any girl I've ever dated." I laughed. "That's a low bar. You dated a girl who thought Wi-Fi came from trees." "Hey," he grinned. "She was fun. She cried at a Taco Bell drive-thru because they ran out of Baja Blast." Josh chuckled, then turned serious again. "So, are we doing this?" I tilted my head toward him. "I think we already are." He smiled, but it was softer this time, more grounded. "Yeah, I think you're right." We didn't make some big announcement. There was no "we're a couple now" moment. Instead, we just kept going. We kissed sometimes, quietly, carefully, when the moment felt right. We'd be on the couch, a show playing in the background, and I'd feel his hand slide across the cushion to find mine. Or I'd be washing dishes, and he'd come up behind me, press a kiss to the back of my neck, and leave like it was the most normal thing in the world. But in public, around our friends, it was still the same. We were still just Josh and me, best friends, roommates. Whatever we were underneath, it stayed hidden. And for a while, that worked. We lived in this weird in-between space. More than friends, but not quite official. And yeah, sometimes that felt safe. Like we were protected from the pressure of labeling it, explaining it, making it real. Other times, it drove me crazy because I'd see the way he acted around other people, the flirty comments, the effortless charm, and I'd wonder if I was the only one getting the version of Josh who looked at me like I was the only person in the room. And then one night, I cracked. It was a party. One of our mutual friends had just gotten a new place and decided to celebrate with cheap beer, loud music, and way too many people crammed into a living room that smelled like pizza and spilled White Claw. Josh and I showed up together, like always. At first, it was fine. We stuck close, joked around, shared a drink. But as the night went on, he started drifting, talking to other people, laughing a little too loud at some girl's joke, leaning in when he didn't need to. I told myself not to care. We weren't exclusive, we hadn't even talked about that. But it still felt like someone was twisting a knife in my stomach. I stepped outside to get some air, the cold hitting me like a slap. I leaned against the railing of the porch, trying to breathe through the mix of jealousy and confusion that had been building in my chest all night. A few minutes later, the door creaked open behind me. "Hey," Josh said. I didn't turn around. "Hey." He stood next to me, hands in his pockets. "You okay?" "Fine." He looked at me. "You sure? You kind of ghosted out of there." I finally glanced over. "Just needed air. That room's packed." Josh studied my face for a beat, then said, "You're mad." I scoffed. "Not mad." "Then what?" I looked at him, trying to find the right words. "I guess I just don't know what we are. You can flirt with whoever you want, obviously. But it's hard to stand there pretending I don't care when I do." He was quiet for a second. Then he stepped closer. "I wasn't flirting with her." "Looked like it." Josh sighed. "Okay, maybe I was. But not like that." I don't know, I was nervous. It's stupid, but sometimes I don't know where I stand with you either. I blinked. "What?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "You act so calm about everything. Like this is just something casual, and I've never done this before. Been with a guy, I mean. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I think about you all the time. And when I saw you walk out tonight, it felt like I'd fucked something up." "You didn't," I said, softer now. "I just want to know what we're doing." Josh nodded, his eyes searching mine. "Then let's talk about it. For real. There was a beat of silence between us. Cold air swirling, music still thumping behind the door. "Okay," I said, "let's talk." He stepped even closer, his hand brushing mine. "Can I hold your hand out here? In front of people?" I hesitated. Then I laced my fingers with his. "I think I want people to know," I said. "Because this, whatever it is, feels real." Josh's smile was small but sincere. "It is." After that night on the porch, something changed. We didn't need to hide anymore. Not from ourselves, and not from the people around us. The next time we went out with our group, Josh sat next to me like always, but this time his hand rested on my knee under the table. It was small, barely noticeable, but to me it felt huge. It felt like a declaration, like he was saying, "Yeah, this is real, he's mine." Some of our friends noticed. I saw the way Chris raised his eyebrows when Josh poured me a drink and added a little smirk when I caught him looking. But no one said anything outright. No teasing, no weird tension, just subtle nods, little knowing smiles. It was like the world kept turning, even though mine had shifted completely. Living together got interesting. The lines that used to be clear were now tangled in the best possible way. I'd wake up to find Josh already up, making coffee in just boxers and a hoodie that hung too loose off his shoulder. He'd flash me this sleepy grin that made my stomach flip, and suddenly, mornings didn't feel so mundane anymore. Some nights we'd curl up on the couch, and he'd fall asleep with his head in my lap, soft snores filling the silence. Other times, we'd stay up talking for hours about the past, about the weirdness of growing up, about what we wanted for the future. But the best moments were the quiet ones. Like when I was having a rough day and he didn't say much, just pulled me into bed with him and wrapped his arms around me until the rest of the world faded. Or when he reached for my hand while we were walking down the street and didn't let go. Even when people looked. It wasn't always perfect. There were still moments of hesitation. We didn't know what to call each other yet. Boyfriend still felt foreign, like a pair of shoes we weren't sure fit just right. One night, we were sitting on the balcony, a couple of cheap beers between us, city lights flickering in the distance. Josh was unusually quiet. "You ever think about what happens after this?" he asked. "After what?" "College. Us. Everything." I nodded. "Sometimes." He turned to look at me, his expression soft. "I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you." I didn't expect that. I don't think he did either. "You're not going to lose me," I said. "We'll figure it out." Like we always do. Josh reached over and took my hand, held it tightly. "I never thought this would be my life," he admitted. "Falling for my roommate. For a guy. Neither did I said. "But I'm glad it is." He smiled, and it wasn't a joking smile, not the cocky grin he usually wore. It was something softer, more vulnerable. "I think I love you," he said. It hit me like a wave. I wasn't expecting it, not like that. But I didn't even hesitate. "I love you too." He let out a breath, like he'd been holding it forever. "Cool," he said, trying to play it off with a smirk. "So we're just two dudes in love." "That's a thing now," I laughed. "Yeah, it is." And sitting there, with his hand in mine, city humming below us, I realized something. This wasn't just a phase, or a fling, or something we'd look back on and shrug off. This was the real thing. That summer after junior year was the best season of my life. Not because we went on amazing trips or did anything Instagram-worthy, but because we didn't have to pretend anymore. We started doing normal couple things, the kind I never thought I'd get to do with Josh. He'd steal my hoodies, complain they were too tight, and then wear them anyway. We'd argue over what to watch on Netflix, even though we both knew we'd end up picking the same trashy dating show and making fun of it the entire time. We'd cook together, badly, burning eggs, forgetting pasta on the stove, and always somehow ending up with takeout. But the best moments were the unexpected ones. Like when he kissed my forehead as I was brushing my teeth. Or when I caught him looking at me like I was something precious, something fragile and important when he thought I wasn't paying attention. One night in particular, we were lying in bed, legs tangled, the fan humming above us. Neither of us could sleep. Josh was on his side, watching me. "You know what's crazy?" he said softly. "What?" "This doesn't feel weird anymore. It just feels right." I nodded, brushing my thumb over the back of his hand. "That's because it is." He was quiet for a beat. Then, "You ever wish we'd figured this out sooner?" "All the time," I admitted. "But maybe we had to go through all that pretending to finally get here." He smiled, then leaned in and kissed me. Slow, deliberate, like he wasn't in a hurry to be anywhere else. And for the first time in a long time, neither was I. Senior year came fast. We moved into a new apartment, slightly bigger, slightly more adult. It had a little balcony and a coffee machine that actually worked. We joked that it made us officially grown-ups. Our friends all knew by then. There wasn't some big announcement. Just casual acceptance, the way good friends always give you. A raised eyebrow here, a playful nudge there, but mostly support, respect. No one made it weird. Josh came out to his parents over winter break. I offered to go with him, but he said he wanted to do it alone. He called me right after. "They were cool with it," he said, his voice trembling a little. "They said they kinda already knew." I laughed. "Of course they did." "What gave it away?" he asked. "You spent an entire summer with me and didn't post one single picture of a girl," I teased. "Yeah, okay," he chuckled. "Fair." Later that night, he came home and didn't say anything. Just pulled me into a hug that lingered a little too long, kissed the side of my neck and whispered, "Thank you for being patient with me." "You were worth waiting for," I whispered back. Graduation came, caps, gowns, fake smiles for photos that somehow still felt real because we made it. Together. When people asked what was next, I didn't know exactly, but I knew it would be with him. We didn't have it all figured out, but we knew this was real. That this thing between us, born out of late-night silences and stolen glances, out of awkward beginnings and unexpected feelings, it wasn't just a phase. It wasn't a detour. It was us, and it was just getting started.